Video is one in a series of videos that are informative and educational. This particular video is on what to do if you are stopped for a DUI, DWI in New Jersey. I have other videos on this on similar areas of law or other areas of law, but this one is specifically on what to do. So, you're out on the road and a police officer puts on his siren and it pulls you over. What to do? Well, first thing you do is, if you're operating the vehicle and driving, is to pull over to a safe area where you can be safe and the officer can pull behind you and he be safe. Now, many times in my 40-some years of practice, the DWI stops are usually very late in the middle of the night and it's dark out. So you want to be able to pull over in an area that is safe for you and the officer. When you pull over, turn your vehicle off, take the keys out, put them on your dashboard, put the lights, overhead lights on. Unless it's very, very cold, pull your window down, your driver's window down, and put your hands on the steering wheel where they can be visibly seen by the officer who will be approaching your vehicle in a short time after he usually runs your plates to check on the status of the vehicle and or the driver. So when the officer comes to you, he will ask you a short series of questions and the reason for why he pulled you over, etc. In the typical DUI scenario, it's because the individual has done something to draw the officer's attention, either swerving or some type of erratic operation of the vehicle, or leaving a blinker on for an extended period of time without noticing. So the officer will ask you a series of questions, and depending on the outcome of those questions, if he determines that you've consumed some alcohol, and that's based on the answers to your questions, he will then, if he thinks you're under the influence, he will ask you to step out of the vehicle. He will then take you to an area. He is supposed to take you to an area where he can perform some sobriety tests. And those tests are usually a nystagmus test, where he would point with some a pen or some lighted object towards your eyes and move the pen to the side and see how your eyes react as you're following the object that he's moving in your course of vision. Based upon that, even though that test is not admissible in a court of law to prove that you're under the influence, it is a test that they allow to use to see whether the officer can go to the next step to determine if the driver is under the influence. So then he will ask you to do usually a walk and turn, where he'll ask you to take a series of steps, usually 9 steps, turn around and then take 9 steps or 10 steps back. And he'll observe you walking to see if you can complete this as he instructs. Now, he'll give you full instructions on what to do prior to asking you to do those tests. If for some reason you do not understand what he's telling you to do, be sure to ask for clarification, because once you commence the test, it's going to be very difficult for you at that point or in court at a future time to say that you did not understand. So make sure you understand the test. If you need to, repeat it to him. If for some reason you speak another language, make sure you clarify that with the officer that you don't understand. And what he may do is he may try to continue, or he may try to get another officer that speaks your language to try to give you some type of instructions. So he will give you that test. Based on the outcome of that test, then he might have you do a leg raise, where he will give you instructions on raising your legs above the ground and holding them in a certain position for a period of time. Now, what is the purpose of these tests? The purpose of these tests is to see if the amount of alcohol you've consumed affects your ability, your motor skills, and your ability to perform these tests. Now, as a defense attorney that's been doing this for years, there are many other reasons why you might not be able to perform these tests. I've tried many cases where an individual had reasons for his eyes being all red and bloodshot that weren't due to consumption of any alcohol. There have been many times where individuals and clients of mine have not been able to perform the leg raise tests that have nothing to do with the consumption of alcohol. It could have been that childhood injury where you suffered an injury to your knee and you had knee replacement and you never have recuperated full balance. Or it could be that you suffered a motor vehicle accident in the past. Or it could be that in this particular incident, if an accident was occurred, that you hit yourself on the steering wheel, or the airbag deployed, striking you with such force that you are not okay to perform these tests. So keep in mind that the officer will usually, if he's thorough, and most are, will usually ask you if there's anything wrong with you. He will ask you if you have any physical impairments that will prevent you from doing any of these tests. It is this time that you should start listing every single reason why you cannot perform these tests. And if you're looking at this video before you've been stopped, this is your opportunity to think this through and prepare that list in the event, God help you, it does not occur, but in the event you're ever stopped for this. So think back about that soccer injury, or that football injury, or that fall down that you had, or that motor vehicle accident that you had, and how it affects any of your body parts that would prevent you or explain your inability to perform these tests normally. There, you're going to say it to the officer, because many times they're videotaping you, and they're audio taping you as well sometimes. So if you say all of this, it can help you in the future in explaining why you failed to perform the test. And why do I say this? Because in New Jersey, you can be found guilty of driving under the influence without a breathalyzer reading, based simply on the officer's observations. Now, if the officer's observations leads him to believe that you're under the influence, then after these tests are completed, he will ask you to turn around, put your hands behind your back, and he'll handcuff you, and he'll read you your rights, and he'll arrest you for 39-450 driving while under the influence. If for some reason, when you go to the precinct to get a breathalyzer administered to you, if for some reason that breathalyzer machine is not working, or if through the process of an attorney like myself fighting that machine and throwing it out of court, and the only thing that the prosecutor and police is left with is observations, then what we're doing is we are going to be fighting those observations based upon what the officer asked you, what your answers were, and how you performed. So that's why it's very important for you to tell the officer what problems you have physically that prevent you from performing these tests. Now, let's assume you've done the tests, you failed, and now you're under arrest and you're brought to the precinct. At the precinct, they have to do a process where they have to observe you for 20 minutes prior to you submitting to the breathalyzer. Why do they have to wait for 20 minutes? Because they have to make sure that you haven't ingested anything, nor put anything in your mouth, nor thrown up, or that you have no contaminants in your mouth that would prevent the breathalyzer machine from properly measuring the level of alcohol in your system. So, again, this is a weight delay for administering the test. And as you are aware, or as you will be aware now, the longer the period of time passes between the time you had your last drink to the time you were given the breathalyzer, the longer the lapse of time, the alcohol in your system will dissipate and will leave your body. So, if you wait 1 hour after having your last drink, your blood alcohol content in your breath will be much lower than if you were to have a test administered immediately after or a short time after having consumed alcohol. So what is my point? The longer the process between your consumption and the test, the likelihood that you'll have a lower BAC reading. So if you were gonna, if for some reason you're about to do a test and you realize that you were chewing on gum, you would bring that to the officer's attention, because now he has to start the 20-minute observation all over again once he asks you to take the gum out of your mouth. Or if for some reason you were to regurgitate some food you had eaten or thrown up something, and he notices that by the guidelines placed upon him, he has to start the 20-minute observation all over again. Many times these BAC tests are videotaped, and there will be evidence to prove that these events happened. So, make a long story short, if any of that were to have happened and for some reason you had something in your mouth or any other contaminant that would have prevented a correct reading from being done, it should be pointed out to the police officer so that that process should start all over again. Once the reading is done, he has to obtain 2 BAC readings. You have to blow sufficiently to create enough air volume for a reading to take place. Many of my clients come to me and say, he accused me of refusing, but I was blowing. But clients think if they blow a little bit, they'll get less alcohol in the reading. It's not like that. You have to blow a certain volume of air for the machine to work. If you don't blow enough and long enough into the machine, it will not take a reading, and it will not be a valid reading. And he will do a few, but if he sees or thinks that you're trying to get over on the system and or on him by blowing too little, he will simply instruct you that he's going to issue you a refusal, and the consequences for a refusal are almost in many cases the same as if you were to blow a high reading. So you want to give us a breath sample so that they can get an appropriate reading for you and move forward. After this has happened and you've been arrested, they will get someone to pick up your vehicle and to pick you up according to John's law, so that you don't drive and go driving under the influence again. You should immediately contact the services of an attorney. There is a lot of information and a lot of discovery that has to be obtained, and the sooner you retain counsel, the sooner the process can commence.